Today we're going to talk about how to price vintage items to get the most money possible out of them. Hey, it's Don. Today we're going to talk about pricing vintage items. All the time people send me images and ask me on postcards, trade cards, Valentine's labels, stickers, how the heck do I price them? There's no real comp information that I can find on the very same item that I have. Now, I've done this for a very long time. We've been pricing vintage items for 20 plus years. So I've seen a lot of stuff. I mean, millions of postcards, millions of photos, all that sort of thing. We see thousands every single week. So if I'm really digging into it, those are quantities that I touch on. So for us, I've went through all the gamut and I've figured out what works for me. Now, a lot of sellers who are asking me prices on these are used to selling new items, books, video games, electronics, and things like that, and they're trying to break into other categories, which is essential for most people. You've got to have multiple categories that you can sell in so you can find multiple items. That's going to help you advance your business. But if you can't price them, of course, that is going to be an issue. You really need to know what stuff's worth before you list it so you're not giving stuff away or leaving money on the table. One of the biggest concepts that people don't get is perceived value. Let's say you've been selling NOS, new old stock, new stock, RA, FBA, all that sort of thing. You sell clothing, you sell video games, books, latest electronics, phones, and things along that line. You have to set the prices based on what the market will allow for those. There is no technical perceived value for your item specifically versus other items in the same category. There is, though, a perceived value that says all iPhones go for this amount of this type. All shirts by a certain brand, Tommy or something, Tommy Bahamas or something, all go for this certain range if they're this kind of shirt. That's a given. You can't overprice. You can't set things above and beyond the perceived value of, say, a used iPhone 7 or something like that. Everybody knows what it's worth. Both the seller and the buyer know prices on what you should be able to buy one for. Those are givens. Those are standards. So when you go to something vintage, it's a big learning curve to figure out what to do with prices on that sort of thing. Now, a key factor to realize, just like you can't find information and don't know how to price a vintage item, those buyers won't be able to find a price either and won't know what to pay for it. So it comes to perceived value as well. Do they perceive that item, that card, that book, that vintage item, that old toy, do they perceive it to be worth what you have on it? Now, you do have to have backing on your prices, of course. Backing meaning that you have many other items in your store, many others in that same category, that same niche, that are all priced comparably. You have a overall judgment on what value is on the things that you sell. So trade cards in certain areas, I automatically know what to put on them. Postcards of certain areas, I always know what to put on them because I sell them at that rate all the time. So my perceived value is based on what I think I can get out of the item. Now, a large number of my prices are not based on prior sales of these vintage items. They're based, again, on what I think I can get out of the item. Have I personally sold the item before? Have I had history with that same type of item? And do I know knowledge enough on that item to say what it should sell for? Now, obviously, I do look at comp sales for the most part, but a lot of the vintage items, the vintage postcards, the vintage trade cards, greeting cards, photos, cabinet cards, whatever you're looking at, there won't be many of them up for sale. There won't be much history either. Whether you use Terapeak or anything else, there just may not be much information out there. Even if you pay for something, PopPsych, WorthPoint, or whatever the case may be, you still may not be able to find enough of the item that you're looking for to judge on price. And again, as I said, it works the same way for the buyer. They can't always judge a price. They have to judge it on what they feel they're comfortable paying. May not be what it's worth. It may be over what it's worth. It may be under what it's worth. But the buyer judges it on perceived value of that item. Now with comp sales, you may have, again, a postcard. We're just as an example. You look it up, there's one or two up there. They sold for $10 a pop on there. Buy it now. So you can pretty much tell on PopPsych or wherever you're looking how it was sold. So you've got two bins at $10 for the same item. Just because somebody listed it at $10 and it sold for $10 doesn't mean that it wasn't worth $30 or $40. You have to judge by the content on the card. Say this postcard is something really unique, a military scene, train depot or something like that, or something from Tahoe or California. It's going to have a good value if it's from the right area. People may not realize that. The first person who put up that specific card may have had no information to go by. He hasn't a clue. He's looking for the first time. He can't find anything like he's got or she's got. No basic information. So they throw it up for $10. Only one person sees it and it sells for $10. The second person that sells one looks and sees that listing and says, oh, $10. I'll list it for $10 and get a quick 10 out of it. Again, neither person would know what it's actually worth, or at least what a perceived value on that item would be worth. I come around, I have the same card, I list it for $45. I let it run. 2 months later, it sells for $45. I have a general idea on a perceived value based on the image. Again, I've done this for a while. If you can't find sales history on that exact image, you can use other images from the same area. For example, let's say the card's from Delaware, downtown, some small town in Delaware. You find other cards from that same town that are real photos or of the same similar style of imagery, such as a spot in downtown, a building, something unique, a train depot, for example, which usually do very, very well, especially the RPPCs, real photo, real picture postcards. So you can judge it on other ones that are similar to that. And again, just because there's 2 or 3 others that are similar, they sold for $20, doesn't mean that you can't get 40 out of it. Use those numbers as a base point, a starting point to put a price on it. You do it as a bin with the best offer. Even if you're too high and somebody wants that card, they're going to make you an offer on it. It has to be a good item, of course, to be looking at it from this aspect. Again, perceived value is what I am looking at, what I worry about. What do I think I can get out of that item? It's not just what comp sales say. In many cases, even if there's a half a dozen of the same item, I can still get more money out of that item than somebody else can. Now, you can't do this in a lot of categories. I can't do this in video games. I cannot do this in clothing. I can't do it in shoes. I can't do it in many, many categories because there is a base price set for those items. Postage stamps, I can't do it there. I can't do it in coins. Unless it's, say, a colonial that just there isn't enough that ever show up. I can't mark up a stamp, though, because there is millions of them pressed in many cases, and people are going to know a base price to go by. They won't buy it over a certain price. But when there's no prices available, no comp sales for the buyer, nor the seller to come up with any reasonable price, you have to get some sense of a starting point, a perceived value. I would rather throw something out way too high any day of the week than sell it for way too low. I can always lower a price, but I can never raise it once it has sold. Another ploy when you're doing this is to realize that it may take the right people online to get a better price on something. Don't be quick to sell something. Don't just throw it out there as an auction. It doesn't sell and then you blow it out because it didn't sell in a 10-day time frame. 10 days may not be enough. There may have been nobody online that was interested in that item. They only check once a month, twice a month or something. You never know. You know, an auction isn't always the best place to sell something like a vintage card or a vintage postcard or something like that. For example, if I see something for $10 that's sold 2 or 3 times, I may price that same item for $34.50 and just let it ride and see what happens. Far too often, I do sell it for more than that $10 comp sales price on most items. I can usually get more money out of them. One of the biggest factors, again, that most people just can't fathom is that buyers of vintage items, the majority of the time, do not look up comp sales. They're judging it on their perceived value based on other things that they have bought similar to that item in the past. Nothing is worth more than someone is willing to pay for it. Again, it comes to perceived value. When you price something, you're giving a perceived value to that item. Just like an iPhone. There's no base price the first day, the first iPhone that was ever released. Apple came up with some perceived value price. They priced it higher than other phones because they would assume that buyers would perceive a bigger value because of the services and what's tied to it, the applications, the design, the functionality of it. The perceived value is really the only key factor that I worry about in vintage items in the categories that we mostly sell in. The pricing structure is subjective by who sells it. One person may list a ton of items for $10 every day because they sell real quick for him and he doesn't want to set on them and he needs the money turned over. While another guy may sell the exact items for $30 and just let them ride and sell them over and over again at a slower pace, but they're still making more money. I personally would rather sell half as many items as someone else, but get 3 times the amount of money out of them. And that's routinely what happens. You can see the items I sell. I routinely get more money than many people get for most of the items that we sell for these very same reasons. Perceived value is the way to go with many of the vintage items that we do sell. A book value means very little in my opinion. It may not be worth what I put on something to the majority of people. It only takes one person to see the value in what I list for it to sell. Again, it may take longer to sell, but I will still be able to get more money than many of these other people, again, because I'm selling them for higher. I've got a ton of items up. I don't mind letting stuff sit. That is the philosophy that I work with. Now again, it's going to take some time for you to figure out which comp prices are firm versus which comp prices I can mark up on. If there's 100 of something in comp sales and it's all about the same price, you cannot do a perceived value. Chances are most everybody already knows a good value based on comp sales or history or something along that line. But if it's a limited item, you have very little data to go on. You most of the time, if it's a vintage item, that's the key, you can mark it up considerably and still be able to sell it at a very high price. A good activity to do is look through active listings in vintage categories. You'll see people that are selling some things well over what other people do, or at least listing them at that price. You can do some further research and see what some of those items are selling for. You'll be surprised to find that many sellers do exactly what I do and routinely get the higher prices. It's the battle-worry sellers, I guess you could say, that have been through the gambit and who have played around with these for a long time that aren't afraid to put a higher price on something with the chance that it may not sell right away. Now, this isn't for everybody this means of pricing because you're going to have to sit on stuff. If you're just starting off or you don't have the funds available to hold items or you're spending a lot of money for the items you get, you may not want to do this. But most of the items that I sell, I get for almost nothing across the board. You've seen what I get. You've seen the hauls. You've seen me out in public buying the stuff. I don't spend much for it. So if it sets here, it's no big deal. This is the best way for me to get the most I can out of everything that I sell. You've got to be looking at perceived value and what you think you can get out of it versus the comp sales in many items that I do sell. Comp sales do come into play, of course. I always look into those, but I use that as a kickoff point, a starting point for my prices. But that's what I have for you today. Hopefully that gave you some ideas and some thoughts. If you enjoyed this video, please hit that like button down below. You can also hit the bell icon to be notified if I post new content or go live. Subscribe and tell all your friends.
Ordinarily, graham crackers don't expect much out of life. Oh, a dip in a glass of milk at best. But now, whoa! With Buzzy the Cookie Crafter, I can be a star. You can buzz me into a teddy bear, even a train with a boxcar. And then to be the best-looking cookie you ever did see, you and Buzzy can decorate me.
Buzzy the Cookie Crafter, a safe new toy from Craftmaster. Batteries not included.
What a way to go. Thanks, Buzzy.